You know that feeling of fear? That darkness you just can't seem to escape? Well, today we're going to dive into a powerful framework for breaking right through it. It's drawn from an ancient text that acts as a kind of manifesto against fear itself. It's that kind of vague, humming worry that just sits in the background of life sometimes. The feeling that something is just a little off. You can't put your finger on it, but that sense of being unsettled, it's definitely there. Well, that feeling actually has a name. It's called ontological insecurity. It's this really deep, fundamental human fear of not being safe in our own existence. It's not about a specific threat, like a spider in the room. It's a much bigger fear about the very state of being. So what if I told you there was a tool, a kind of spiritual firewall, designed specifically to deal with that exact feeling? That's the way we're going to look at the 113th chapter of the Quran, Al-Falaq, not just as a prayer, but as a practical protocol for building a deep, unshakable sense of security. All right, so where do we even start? Well, this whole framework kicks off by anchoring us to our source of safety. It tells us to turn to the Lord of the Dawn. Okay, so the real magic here is in this one word, falaq. Now, you might see it translated as dawn, but honestly, that doesn't even begin to cover it. The root meaning is way more intense. It means to split violently. Think about the explosive power of a tiny seed cracking through concrete, or the dawn literally shattering the darkness of night. We're not talking about a gentle sunrise here. We're talking about a powerful, explosive breakthrough. And right there, that's a total mindset shift. See, seeking refuge isn't about just passively hiding from your problems. It's an active declaration of your confidence. It's about aligning yourself with the very force that rips and tears through any kind of darkness, whether that's a literal night or a deep personal crisis. And get this, the whole thing is activated by the very first word of the chapter, kul, which means say. So this isn't about just silently hoping for the best inside your head. It's a command to actually vocalize your intention. The idea is, you don't beat fear by quietly wishing it away. You start by declaring out loud your allegiance to the power that can absolutely shatter it. Okay, so we've got our source of refuge. Now the framework gets super practical. It tells us exactly what we're running from. To build a shield that actually works, you have to know what you're up against. Basically, it's time to name our shadows. And look, this isn't about some vague feel-good idea. It's more like a diagnostic tool. It gets really specific, naming 3 distinct types of harm that feed that insecurity we were talking about. And by naming them, we take away their power. It's the first step to disarming them completely. And this is where things get really wild, because this ancient text suddenly feels like it was written yesterday. It breaks down these threats into anxieties we all deal with. You see it right here. Darkness becomes that paralyzing fear of the unknown, that anxiety of what if. Then you have knots, which is just a perfect metaphor for all the social manipulation, the gossip, the office politics that tie our lives up. And finally, envy, this uniquely destructive force that poisons us from the inside. I mean, how powerful is that quote? It totally reframes that old idea of blowing on knots for our digital world. Just think about it for a second. A targeted social media disinformation campaign. What is that really? It's modern-day sorcery. A malicious rumor mill at work? It's just a way to tie people up in social knots. The principle is exactly the same. A hidden influence designed to disrupt and control. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most insidious threat of all. Envy. And it's listed last for a very good reason. Think about it. Darkness is external. Even manipulation often comes from the outside. But envy? That's an internal poison. It's that corrosive feeling that rots you from the inside out, making you wish for someone else's downfall. And in the process, it just ends up destroying you first. All right, so we know where to go for safety, and we've named the things we're trying to get away from. So what's the last piece of the puzzle? Well, it's all about embodiment. This isn't just about saying a prayer. It's about building a character. It's time to actually forge the shield. And this right here, this is where it gets really transformative. The goal isn't just to find a temporary shield when you're scared. It's to internalize these principles so deeply that you become a new type of person, a proactive identity that we can call the Falaq Person. And a key thing to get here is that this isn't some kind of magical thinking. It's a practical blueprint for building your character. The The Falaq Person actively works on these three traits. First, they're a guardian of hope, always looking for the crack of dawn in the darkness. Second, they're a knot solver. Instead of stirring the pot and complicating things, they're the one who simplifies, mends, and brings clarity. And finally, they become envy-proof, so secure in their own journey that they can genuinely, truly celebrate when other people succeed.
Okay, and all of this brings us to the final big idea that pulls everything together. The dawn isn't just something that happens to you. It's a choice you make.
Look, the whole point of the shield isn't to pretend that the threats aren't real. It's not about denial. The uncertainty, the gossip, the envy, the framework is very clear that all that darkness is absolutely real. But after acknowledging the darkness, it does something brilliant. It completely shifts your focus. It's a constant, powerful reminder that the light you can choose to align with, that force that splits the night wide open, is, by its very nature, infinitely more powerful than anything that could possibly fester in the dark. So in the end, this whole framework really boils down to one simple but incredibly profound question you have to ask yourself. Are the shadows you're facing, are they really more powerful than the source of every breakthrough that has ever existed? And the answer the text is pointing to is, of course not. And deciding to really live like you believe that, well, that's where true security begins.